Hi, I'm Chike Coleman. This is Rule Reviews the Cinematic Underground, the show where Chuck Koplinski and I talk about movies. This week, we're going to be talking about Jurassic World and the movie that I never really expected to find myself in a theater for, Entourage, the movie. So this week was a really eventful week in cinema, specifically because of the death of a very well-known actor, died at the age of 93, Christopher Lee. Now, for those of you who don't know who Christopher Lee is, he played Sauron in the Lord of the Rings franchise. He was Dracula in the Hammer horror movies, and I know him very well from a little movie made in 1994 called A Feast at Midnight, involving kids who basically sneak out of their dorm rooms to make food. I've always found Christopher Lee to be an incredible presence on screen and was deeply saddened to learn of his passing. Other credits that Christopher Lee has done over the years, outside of the Hammer films, he has been in the original version of The Wicker Man, which I recently saw, and I have to say, the original Wicker Man is laughably bad, but I really think that his zaniness really works well with that original version. I believe it was from 1978 or 9, I think. So I was really deeply saddened to learn of his passing, and he's an extraordinary actor and an extraordinary talent. And also, one of the other weird things, I was looking it up on the internet today, one of the other interesting aspects of Christopher Lee's life is that he was a vocalist and a musician. He loved heavy metal, which I've listened to a couple of the tracks today of, the albums he released that were heavy metal related, and it's hilariously, unsettlingly good. I really enjoyed his work as a musician, which I was surprised by. But all thoughts and prayers are with Christopher's family as they deal with the horrible and sad passing of Mr. Lee. He will be missed. So the first movie I wanted to talk about today is a movie, like I said, that I did not really go into the theater knowing that I was going to go see, and that would be Entourage. It's directed by Doug Elin. The screenplay is also by Doug Elin. And stars Adrian Grenay. We have Jerry Ferrera. We have Emmanuel Chikiri. Just Jeremy Piven, who plays Ari, the agent to Adrian Grenay's lead character. And the plot is very simple and hilarious. Adrian Grenay's character really wants to make another big box office success. So he contacts his old manager, his old agent, Ari Gold, to say, hey, now that you're a studio head, I really want to do a really great movie that's going to, increase my profile and set me up for life. Can you find me a script that's worth doing something about? Can you give me a role that I can really sink my teeth into? And so Ari says, well, there's this movie that you could do. And he's like, well, that sounds like a great idea, but the only way I'll do it is if I direct. Ari looks at him like he's crazy, but allows him to do so. And the adventure really starts off from there, because you don't really see Vince, Adrian Grenay's character, go through all those struggles of being a director. You just know that there's a finished product, and there's this really weird sense of unease about whether that product's going to be good or not. Meanwhile, you have Vince's other friends, E and Turtle, and of course, Johnny. And Johnny Drama, I have to say, hilarious character in this movie. I can't say enough about these guys. They're all sort of likable in their own way. Johnny Drama is basically the trashy best friend. E is basically the reliable best friend. Turtle is well, the opposite of what he was in the series, I guess. He used to be very heavy set, and now in this movie, he's super thin. So there are a lot of jokes surrounding his sudden shift in weight loss, which I found absolutely hilarious. The real shock of this movie to me is Jeremy Piven's Ari Gold character. I'd heard a little bit about what Entourage was as a series, but I didn't really know what to expect when I was watching the film. And the person that really kind of caught me off guard as hilarious was Jeremy Piven's character of Ari. Ari is just one of those guys that when you get him in a room and you say, these are the situations that we're in, can you help us, can you bail us out? He goes from, okay, yeah, I'll try and do that, to how the heck did you get yourself in this mess? Kind of like a raging, angry guy that just wants to get things perfect and wants his life to be perfect, but he has to keep his anger under control when he gets in these stressful situations because it just leads to hilarious things. There's a specific scene in the movie involving Ari with his wife at couples counseling where he does something hilarious to learning that one of his financiers is trying to cut a piece of Vince's movie, and it's hysterical. Just the idea of that, the idea of one of Vince's friends, Turtle, getting a date with Ronda Rousey and what he thinks Ronda Rousey wants in terms of partnership, relationship versus what she actually wants is absolutely hysterical. I really enjoyed this movie because it just had so many different small things that you could laugh at. If one joke didn't land, there was something else right behind it that made the situation even weirder. And I really enjoyed this film. Chuck, now that you're here, what did you think of Entourage, the movie?
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I enjoyed it a great deal. I don't know why it's getting the bad reviews it is.
I don't know
To
either.
tell you the truth.
It makes no sense.
I don't know if it's people who have other expectations, but I had a great time with it. And I thought it was very ingenious the way they caught everybody up for those people who had not seen the show. They do an interesting thing towards the beginning, an interview with Piers Morgan. But they do an interview with Piers Morgan in which we get caught up with Vince and everybody. And just that 5-10 minutes I thought was really quite clever.
And what they do to E is hilarious.
Well, yeah. I don't know what people were expecting from this. It was fun.
I had a great time.
And I don't really think that it should be much more than that. I know it's not doing well at the box office, and I think that I think it was Warner Brothers released this. I think they made a huge mistake releasing this during the summer.
Yeah.
There's always that dead time after Labor Day, between Labor Day and really when the holidays start. Holiday movies start around now about November 1st. I would have released it in September, October.
Exactly my point, yeah.
I think that would have been a much better time for this. I think it would have found an audience. And maybe the reviews would have been better.
But there are too many things coming out. That's the problem. Too many things are getting ready to come out, so there's no way of really getting good push, I think. I also talked to the audience about Christopher Lee's passing. I know that you have a much more extensive knowledge in Lee's work than I do. Do you want to talk about him briefly for a minute?
Yeah, a guy that, so many of those actors who were typecast in horror films really didn't get the credit they deserved as far as how talented they really were because of these films that they were in. And he, of course, was quite good in everything he did. He just revolutionized the role of Dracula. I mean, Bela Lugosi will probably always be our most famous Dracula, but Lee, when he first played Dracula in 1958, suddenly Dracula became a violent, sexual creature, which was something you did not have with Lugosi.
No, you had like a seductress.
Right. This guy, though, what he brought to the role was that you did not mess with Dracula. He'd snap your neck. And his imposing figure. I mean, the man was 6'4". I mean, that also added a certain danger and power to the role as well. And then, of course, with those Hammer films in the late 50s and 60s, they were amping the sexuality also. So, that role was his after Lugosi's, and he made it, he played the part 10 times. But also when you would see him in other things, I mean, he always had nice little moments. In Spielberg's 1941, he plays a German commander stuck on a Japanese U-boat, and the breakdown in communication there, he's, of course, the straight man, and it's quite funny. The Wicker Man, the cult horror film from '73, of course, he's very misleading there until we get the final twist there. He was just a guy who brought that solid presence, a solid center to any film he was in. And, I guess generations now know him from Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, but I'll definitely miss him.
That was actually, my introduction to him wasn't even in Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I actually had a much earlier introduction to him in the 1994 film A Feast at Midnight, where he plays a headmaster at what I can only assume is a boarding school. Have you seen that film? It's pretty old.
Yeah, it is
but
pretty
it's
old.
really great. I really enjoyed that film when I saw it, and that was my introduction to him.
Well, I mean, the guy had over 270 credits on IMDb.
Yeah.
A career that any actor, I think, would kill for, a working actor all the way through the end of his life. And I know that Turner Classic Movies, I think I read it was yesterday, I think I read it was the 22nd, June 22nd, they'll be devoting their evening program to him. I think 6 or 7 of his films. So if you're interested, check that out.
Yeah. The other film that I wanted to talk about today was one that's highly anticipated by many, and that is the 4th entry in the Jurassic Park franchise, Jurassic World, directed by Colin Trevorrow. Is that how you say it?
I believe so, yeah.
And starring Chris Pratt, and we have also Jake Johnson from New Girl, as well as Ron Howard's daughter, whose name is blanking.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard, thank you. And, Leslie Mann, oddly, as well.
Leslie Mann?
Yeah, she was the mom.
No, that was Judy Greer.
That was Judy Greer.
Judy Greer. And also, how about Vincent D'Onofrio?
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
And if we're looking for names, there we go. No, it's Judy Greer, my friend.
Judy Greer, okay. I don't know why they...
Because they both have red hair and they're middle-aged?
I don't know. So the premise behind Jurassic World is that these 2 teenagers are visiting the island of...
The theme park. It's a theme park.
Yeah, whatever the theme park's name is.
Isla Nubella? No,
yeah,
Nubella.
Isla Nubella, something like that. And basically they have genetically modified a dinosaur, and the kid's aunt is in charge of basically maintaining this giant theme park that was built basically in Mr. Hammond's honor. And we have a trainer named Owen, played by Pratt's character, who has trained some raptors, and a situation goes wrong where that genetically enhanced animal that they built through different DNA splicing. Indominus
Rex.
The Indominus Rex escapes through something very clever. I didn't see that coming. How the dinosaur manages to escape. And then the adventure begins because the Indominus Rex is loose, and the Indominus Rex causes other things in the park to get loose that were previously caged in, and all hell breaks loose. I'm going to go with your opinion on this film first, because I have a definitive opinion on... Oh,
definitive? Well, then why should I talk if you have the definitive?
I have a definitive individual opinion on what I think this film is. But what are your opinions on Jurassic World, Chuck?
I had fun with it. I mean, and that's, I think, all you really could expect from a movie like this. I mean, it's a popcorn movie. It's a summer movie. It has no pretension to make any profound social statement. Hopefully, I mean, the message is the same old since Frankenstein came about. Don't mess with nature. It's real simple. This is a ride. The film's a ride. And it's basically the same film as the first film. I didn't mind that, though. I mean, you know exactly what you're getting here, and they deliver that very, very well. Also, I think that the film is an audition tape for Chris Pratt as far as Indiana Jones is concerned. They've been talking about that for a few months now. Obviously, Disney did not buy the rights to the George Lucas characters, which include Indiana Jones, just to sit on them. Inevitably, there will be another Indiana Jones film, and if they have to do it, I think Pratt is as good of a choice as any, and he pulls that role off pretty well here. I don't think this is a film you can get really too critical with. It delivers the thrills. It might be a little long, but it is exactly what you expect, and I had fun with it.
I was actually of the opposite opinion. I was just kind of waiting for it to be over. First thing that really annoyed me throughout this film was the youngest son. The youngest son just running everywhere. Just oh, I'm gonna go over here. Oh, I'm gonna go over here. Oh, I'm gonna go over here. It's like, kids, slow the heck down. Anything can happen to you in this thing. Anything can happen to you in this park, in this place of amusement that you're so invested in. Why are you running everywhere? He was like a...
He wants to see dinosaurs.
He was like a kid on... Oh.
He wants to see dinosaurs. I mean, wouldn't you be excited?
But no,
I'd want to see a dinosaur if I could see a dinosaur.
This kid was like bouncing off the walls. It's like you gave him 3 pints of ice cream and said, here, go. I didn't like him. I didn't like the older brother because, and this is a really dumb complaint, he had a girlfriend, yet he was willing to stare at every other girl in the park. What? No.
He's a teenage boy.
That doesn't work.
He's a teenage boy.
There was really no brotherly...
He's a teenage boy. It's what they do.
There was really no brotherly bond between the brothers, I thought.
Did you ever have an older brother?
No.
Or a younger brother?
No.
It's exactly what it's like.
Okay. So from that perspective, I'll give that one to you. The other thing, the action was not as intense as I wanted it to be. The Raptors were cool when, you know, Chris Pratt was training them. His Owen character was training them. But I didn't really feel myself connected. You know, the first Jurassic Park took you on an adventure. It showed you something new. The second Jurassic Park, The Lost World, while it didn't show you something new, it gave you different dimensions to the characters you already knew. I felt none of that here. I wasn't engrossed at all in what the kids' adventure was because they made one stupid decision after another, and I know that was in existence to progress the plot. But I mean, seriously, at some point you would think after encountering dinosaurs who were attacking them, these kids would wise up and say, oh, you know what? We may not have access to a car, but there are these sticks that are electric sticks from the old park, apparently, that we can use to defend ourselves.
Did you see the same movie I saw?
I did.
They got a Jeep going. What do you...
They got a Jeep going, but that's like literally the only thing that they did. Owen basically did most of the rescuing 90% of the time.
That's his job. He's the hero.
I realize that,
He's
but
the hero. That's his job.
But the kids needed to be inventive as well. Seriously?
They were. Stop. Okay, they take a Jeep that's been sitting there for who knows how long, and they get it moving. If that's not inventive, I don't know what you want. Okay, and really, that's the biggest plot hole in the whole story. There's no way they can get that Jeep going.
Exactly,
That's
it's
BS.
too old.
But you can't knock the kid. They're inventive within the realm of the script.
Okay, if you really want to go that direction, then let me point to you something that happened in The Lost World.
That's not the movie we're talking about.
I know, but...
We're talking about this movie. That has nothing to do with this.
My point is the kids were smarter in The Lost World and in Jurassic Park. And
How are the kids smarter in Jurassic Park? If it weren't for Sam Neill, they'd have been eaten.
But they had the good sense to hide in different places. They had good sense to find different ways to distract.
So you wanted them to hide here?
I wanted them to be...
They were trying to get back to safety. Isn't that smart? Where everybody is supposedly safe, they're trying to get back there. And I believe that's what their aunt told them to do. Get back to the thing. We're closing everything down. We're going to get you on the boat and get you the hell out of here. You're nitpicking. That's not what this movie is about. This movie is about thrilling you with dinosaurs. That's all this movie is about.
Okay, the other gripe I have is a dumb gripe. It's a dumb gripe.
Oh, because the other ones were intelligent. Okay, good.
The other gripe I've got is use animatronics. You use animatronics at the end of the movie. Use it throughout. I mean, for me, when you see the dinosaurs up close and they're using animatronics, I believe in the characters' connection to the dinosaurs and nature. But most of this was CGI. So as intense as the sound design is, and that's a place where I will give the film credit, the sound design is fantastic in this film. But seriously.
So you wanted animatronics throughout.
Yes.
So you wanted an animatronic T-Rex, and you wanted an animatronic Indominus Rex. Dinosaurs that are like, what, 6 or 7 stories high.
And I realize that the downside of that is you don't get the speed of the dinosaurs because you're using animatronics. But when they do eventually attack, it
I think they should use stop motion puppets. I mean, let's go back to King Kong. Let's just do it that way.
Well, I know that wouldn't work as...
Did you ever see King Kong?
What, the
first
original?
one?
Yeah, I did. Eventually, after I had to sit through that disaster of the 3 hours of Peter Jackson's
Okay, go
version.
back to this one. Yeah.
But I don't know. It just didn't connect for me for some reason. I had
You
more...
went in wanting to hate it. That's why.
No, though, because I liked the first two. The third was rough, but I went in with hope because you had Chris Pratt leading. And to your credit, you're right. Chris Pratt does...
Oh, I got something right. Thank you. To my credit.
To your credit...
Cretin idiot that I am. To my credit. Thank you so much.
To your credit, you know, Chris Pratt really does a wonderful, fantastic job in his role. He really does, in my opinion, save the picture from being a complete disaster. I don't know what you might feel about Bryce Dallas Howard. I thought Vincent D'Onofrio's character is one note, which is what he's supposed to be.
One thing I liked about the film, too, was how they tied in elements of the first film into this one. I thought that was clever.
They did, especially with...
especially with the end. The way the solution to the problem, I thought, was pretty clever.
The solution to the problem was clever, and how they introed the film was great. Because
Yeah.
they started out with
That was
what
clever.
would probably be the most heartfelt scene in the movie from the original Jurassic Park. And then they did what Spielberg did in the first film. Or actually, not the first film, the second, I'm sorry. A misdirect. And I love the little misdirect because that to me was a nod to Spielberg and what he had achieved before. I just wasn't as strong on this film as I wanted to be. I expected a bit more. I don't know what I would have been looking for other than the kids to be smarter and you've got to explain one other thing that to me is a huge plot hole. How come the Raptors went from, oh yeah, we're fine being trained by you, to, oh, we're going to play with the Indominus Rex because he has some of our DNA.
Because they were talking.
But
Look, you're trying to employ logic to something that's illogical. None of this makes sense. None of it makes sense, Chike.
yeah.
Okay? Okay, the Indominus Rex has some of its DNA, they talk, and then they realize they have something in common, and the Ravens, oh, okay, well, fine, let's turn around. Come on, they're not that, no. So then, of course, you have a problem at the end then when the Raptors then turn back to help us out.
Yes, because it's just a weird about face.
None of it makes sense, Chike. You cannot pick away and employ logic to the illogical. It's illogical from the start.
But isn't that what made the first Jurassic Park so good? Because we thought, oh, you know what? We're getting a new side of what this animal life form is like. We didn't know, well, okay. No, people who were educated about dinosaurs as kids, it's not something that's in our daily life, in our daily brain. Jurassic Park brought us a new element because it said, what if we were able to keep these things around? And that's what made it fascinating. Same thing with The Lost World. But here, I didn't feel that sense of wonder and excitement that I felt in...
So you're like the people who go to Jurassic World. You're just not impressed with dinosaurs or anything like that anymore.
I guess I'm like that form
Because
of
that's
the
exactly
audience.
the whole point. You know, she says, we've got to come up with this thing because now, dinosaurs, who cares? So you've become that way with movies then in general.
No, just this one. This one specifically hit a sore spot with me because it didn't It didn't take us
So,
anywhere.
so how are we going to talk about Ant-Man and things like that?
Ant-Man's
Because
gonna
that's certainly not logical.
Ant-Man's gonna be hilariously.
And then how is that
fantastic.
okay? I mean, if we're going to go the whole logic route, how is it possible that a man can shrink himself down to the size of an ant, have strength? I mean, your logic, you can't just approach it. You can't just employ this logic to one film and not the other.
Okay,
They're all silly.
But see, the difference between Ant-Man and Jurassic World is the idea of courage. We're seeing a person develop. We don't see anybody develop in this film. No one develops. If somebody
No one develops.
Well, I would almost argue the little kid learns to be a little bit less
What about
whiny.
what about the ant?
The ant
She's the
realizes
only one who does develop.
The ant realizes she values
been a tool.
family, and is less of a tool at the end.
You don't go to these movies for plot development or character development. If you want that, go see Lawrence of Arabia. Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
I actually
that's a
came
no.
in on a half of it. I haven't seen it
half
all
of
the way
it.
through.
You're killing me.
I've not seen it all the way through, and I want to.
Okay, I'm just seeing which other ones we're going to pick apart here, coming up over this now. Ted 2, there's a talking teddy bear there. Talking teddy bear there. That one, of course,
But
makes all the sense in the world. But that one we'll give a pass to because, the Terminator, we got killer robots from the past and the future and the wherever they come from. I don't know where they come from.
And those should be intriguing if done correctly.
If done correctly. Ant-Man, shrinky ant guy, but you already said that was okay. Pixels, that has a firm foot in reality. Giant video game icons eating the world. That makes sense.
Like I said, what I was looking for was some form of just, I guess what I look for in all films, a form of humanity. Some little scrap that makes me go, oh, these guys are actually, working hard to not only give us spectacle, but give us some point where we can go, oh, you know what? I learned this, or this is how I grew. You could definitely see that from the Entourage guys. Yes, they continued to be the douchebags that they were throughout the entire movie, but at least at the end, one of them believed in themselves.
One of them.
One.
Yeah. I think for some odd reason, you went in hating this movie before you saw it. And I don't know why. But what do I know?
You know a lot.
I know nothing. I only get one thing right every time we do this show, sometimes.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
I
To my
said-
credit.
To your credit,
I got one thing right. Hey, good news. Kindergarten Cop remake in the works.
Are you serious? Please no.
That's what it says.
Oh God, no, please.
Because that was a classic, an all-time favorite of yours?
Oh no, I don't. I just don't want it to be touched. It's already so bad on its own.
Well, then isn't, I've always heard the argument that those are the movies you should remake.
Why?
Because they got it wrong the first time, so try and get it right. Why remake a classic when they got it right the first time? The other argument is,
Well, they do that too all the time.
I don't know. Oh, and they're also going to remake She's All That.
Which makes no sense to me because I grew up seeing that movie.
Okay, so see, there's your formative film right there.
Oh,
They're talking to Colin Farrell about Kindergarten Cop.
I can just imagine.
No, they're not. I'm kidding you.
Oh God. Kids. Circles of fun.
All right. Well, I guess we just have to agree to disagree on
this
the
particular
cheek.
on this particular occasion. I think so. Next week we've got Inside Out coming up, which is going to be great.
Because
And that's Pixar hopefully going back to its strengths of moving us as they usually do. I know it's going to be a fun film and a funny film.
Jurassic World, by the way, 82.8 million on Friday alone.
Okay, so it's making its money.
Making its money.
And now if only we could get an Entourage sequel.
Not going to happen.
I guess not. So until next time, you can see Chuck's reviews on thenewsgazette.com, and you can see my reviews on wheelchairwatcher.com. This has been Real Reviews Cinematic Underground. We will see you later.